introduce themselves, say what your interest is in Mongo, and just a little bit about yourself, but brief, and then we'll get started.
Okay, so I'm Raymond Ohanian. I'm doing consultancy in Java mostly. Yeah.
Thank you.
My name is Roger. I'm a consultant. Yeah, like the data architect. Yeah, big data. Yeah.
Big data.
Cool. Mike Vinsky, DevOps consultant with a variety of companies. I'm interested in comparing and contrasting Hadoop, Pig, MapReduce, different strategies with Mongo, and kind of see what all the buzz is about.
Cool.
I'm Alex. I'm a developer for a startup in Westwood. We use Mongo for a variety of things.
My name is Andrew Hall. I'm the tech lead of Instantly. We built our platform off Mongo.
And my name is Alan Grushka from Pasadena. I have a one-man company that I make database applications, and I'm looking at adding Mongo to that.
I'm Nathan. I'm a web developer at a startup in Westwood. We use Mongo.
Same startup.
Yeah, same. Yeah, now great. Same startup, digital signage company, and Mongo.
By the way, if you want to mention the company name, feel free. I'm not asking because it's
Nplug. Nplug is our company name. ENPLUG.
Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Arlen. I'm a software engineer. I'm interested in learning about Mongo and Pitch.
Mike Javadi. I'm an independent consultant right now, and I'm interested to find out about Mongo 2.2. What caveats when you go from an older version, can you mix and match shards?
Okay.
So you do all in one's good one.
I'm Mark, working on a startup to make building custom web designs easy. It's called Excelsior, where you use Mongo. It's amazing.
Hey, I'm Seth Kim. I'm a SQL developer working on an engineering company. I'm trying to know what the NoSQLs and MongoDB software.
Cool. Hey, just one thing. You're going to have to come back and do a talk about what you guys did since you use Mongo. So.
Oh, okay.
And that's,
awesome.
that speaks for anybody. Like, just hit me up if you've got a good story to tell. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, my name is Vim Fincher, and I'm an independent iOS developer. I'm here to learn about databases other than SQLite and MySQL. So.
My name is Scott. I'm a Rails software engineer. Work for online credit card processing company, and we use Mongo for one of our crawler things.
Okay.
My name is Carlos. I'm a patent attorney, and I'm just interested in technology in general.
My name is James Norris. I'm a web developer, and just started using Mongo in a few projects and came to see what I could learn.
I'm Kelsey, VP of Technology at GiveAGive. Mongo is what our platform uses.
My name is Ken Hepburn, and I'm a founder at GiveAGive, social gift giving that gives back, and looking for better, more flexible ways to do things.
Whoever's next. I think that's you.
Hi, I'm Faraz. I'm the tech lead of Caboodle.com. I'm interested in learning the new version of Mongo. We've been using Mongo for the last couple of years.
At Caboodle?
Yes.
You're like a social...
social consultant.
Yeah, I think I've seen you guys.
Hi, I'm Ben. I'm a system engineer for UCLA. We work with MongoDB for one of our internal projects.
My name's Ashok, and I work at the California Institute of the Arts. And we use a lot of MySQL with Drupal, but we've been looking at possibly migrating a lot of that stuff to using Drupal plus Mongo instead. Okay. So I'm here to learn.
Did you get a new shirt?
Pardon?
Did you get a new shirt?
Yes. We have some shirts at our house.
Mongo logo in the back. On the front.
I'm Mike. I'm just here to learn more about Mongo. I'm really into mobile apps and just want to see what Pitch is about.
And my name is Lynn, and I'm actually a technical recruiter, and I'm also here to learn more about Mongo.
Patrick, I'm mostly at work right now, but I'm seeing for data science positions a lot of stuff with big data, MongoDB, NoSQL, a lot of MapReduce stuff, sort of just slathered across Java applications.
My name is Mario. I work for Added Value. It's a brand insight and marketing research company, and we're just starting to use Mongo.
My name is Daniel Weiss. I work for a fashion startup called Who What Wear. I'm the VP of engineering there. We're hiring if anybody wants to. We're building a CMS. We'll probably use Mongo for also building a storefront. So.
Man in the back there on the right. Yeah, the one looking behind it. Oh, wait, let's go to Hal.
This is my name is Hao, and I'm launching a fan engagement mobile startup, and we're using MongoDB.
Name's Tom Tran, work for a mobile startup company. Here to kind of look at that stuff like the Mongo, do like a little professional version of I'm Robert, I'm co-founder at Buckingham Web Services. We're a software consulting shop building custom apps, and we use Mongo extensively, along with many other technologies, and we're hiring too.
Thank you, Robert. That is my business partner, by the way.
Another co-founder.
I'm Wesley. I'm an inventor, interactive barcodes.
Cool. And then we have.
Hi, I'm Aaron. I'm a software developer here at Factual. I actually use Mongo on an internal project that does task management. Also want to let you guys know for the restrooms, you go out, back past the elevators, and the restrooms are over here on this side of the floor. They should be unlocked. You should just need to push the door open.
Don't have to push it hard. We wanted to make sure you'd stand up, so. Who else have we got here? Chandra, the Tengen team. You guys want to?
So I'm Chandra Rao, principal of Real Consulting LLC. We do all sorts of software and we enter into Mongo. We have practice.
Hi, I'm Amy, and I'm Tengen intern.
Hi, Katie Goodwin, Tengen employee, MongoDB. It's so great to see so many familiar faces in here. Thanks for coming out again. Just a resource for all you guys down here in the LA area. If you have any questions about Mongo, I'll just go through me and I'll direct you straight to Antoine. But we're just excited to have such a great community down here, and thank you guys all for coming out.
Thank you.
Everyone, my name is Antoine. I've been in Tengen for the past few years, working as a software engineer and solutions architect, so I'm allowed to talk to you on the stage. If you have any questions to the question.
And I have cards if anyone needs to get in touch with us.
Cool, great. So before we start with the speakers, wanted to do a shout out, first of all, to Factual for the wonderful hosting that they always do. As well to Tengen, who are very generous with every time we are doing food and refreshments. As you can see, the digs are pretty nice, so thank you to them. And we have a couple of events coming up, but I guess the one that will be of most interest to you guys will be, I think it's the 11th at Koloff. There's going to be training from Nuri. He was a speaker over here a few months ago, you might remember. So just look at the meetup and you'll see it there. And I guess that's about it. Without further ado, are we starting with pitch or with Antoine?
Yeah, I think
okay.
we're going to pitch real quick because that one you have to stick around for the interesting presentation.
So thanks for coming tonight, guys. My name's Hans Ku, and I'm a co-founder and currently heading up user engagement or growth hacking at Pitch. And I have with me today Richard Buckingham, who leads our, actually heads up our operations, platform, website of our company, and Oleg Polnev, who runs our web and platform team internally under Richard. These guys are the ones with the major technical knowledge. In the past, I started up a photo sharing company called Siva that shared pictures to digital picture frames. You didn't have to have a computer to have the frame. So during that time, like I basically brought the company up from 3 people and eventually ended up running our websites and ran a lot of databases that were a big pain in the ass. SQL Server, Oracle, what have you, MySQL. And you know, I like coordinated subqueries, but it's just by the time we got to DreamWorks, we managed to convince them to start up Pitch, which I'll tell you about soon. But one of our first challenges was to imagine if we were to scale, what kind of a system would we want to have in place so that we didn't fall over every couple minutes. And I kind of knew that there was this thing going on, this NoSQL thing, and that was really appealing to me because it had some fun in SQL, but didn't wish to do it again. And so, you know, we ended up going with MongoDB after looking at a bunch of different options, which they'll talk about more later. But since then, it's been pretty awesome. It's really easy to use, really easy to develop it with, really flexible. And for the really small number of things that Mongo can't do, for example, if we use Solar, it's really easy to just have Mongo over here and then every so often have the Solar interface back. And again, these guys can tell you more about that if you're interested. So what is Pitch? Pitch is a DreamWorks Animation-backed mobile social media tool, which is a mouthful. But what it is basically DreamWorks funded, taking the DreamWorks technology and creativity and helping you do something with all the photos and videos that you're capturing on your phones these days. And the key distinction with Pitch is that we're able to take your photos and videos and you can put them together, glue them together with some styles and creativity, see them render real time, and then share them out. So it's as if, this was actually, we started this before Instagram was bought, but, and this term became popular, but it's sort of the Instagram of video. Instagram meets YouTube. And so our challenges with Pitch were a couple-fold. One was, you know, at scale, we figured we'd have a bunch of users. One could do a lot of things like following people or sharing out their media, uploading photos, uploading videos, you know, commenting and liking, all the stuff that social networks do today. And we didn't want to build out a big presence or a big infrastructure, a big data center or anything like that. We wanted to be able to move fast, find our product, change what we are quickly, and not have to have, so my past experience was that you had a DBA who worked with a developer, and if you're really lucky, they worked well together, and you could actually move the product. But there was always a little bit of friction between the two. And this is about 12 years ago. These days, computers are fast enough that I think you can, and the eventual outcome of scaling is that you end up with MongoDB, even if you start with something like MySQL, that you can just get that flexibility from day one. And today, that's really important. For an app like Pitch, where we came out, so we came out on July 19th this year, just a couple months ago, to a lot of great press. And that's a little bit atypical. Normally, a startup comes out and you don't have press. You have some users, and you kind of find your way by measuring what the users are doing and adjusting your product so you sort of find your product market fit. Even so, we still need to do this. This actually helped us get a lot of initial users, but I don't think from this point on we're that much different than any other startup. So we are still in our research mode to try to figure out, you know, what product we should be. Mongo helps us do that because we can maintain flexibility. So a little bit more about what Pitch is, and maybe really shortly I can just plug in and show you directly. But Pitch has a concept, I don't know if you can see that, has a profile page, has an explore page. You can scroll and look at pitches. You know, you can look at how many likes you've made or followers you have, or people you're following. You know, we have activity streams. So, you know, when someone does something to you, one of your things, or one of your followers does something, you've got to get notified about it. You need to be able to tap on that and go to the thing that they are acting on.
Very nice.
Nice.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yep.
We have a concept of in a pitch. You can see what's inside the pitch because we don't, although we deliver a movie to Facebook or other places, we can actually get to the original assets always. They're always there. So if I want to go see the photos or videos that are inside the pitch, I can open it up and see it. I can actually bring it back into what we call an editor and change it around and then repitch it. And in that case, I'm going to want to dedupe. I'm going to want to make sure I don't have to re-upload all the stuff that I just downloaded. And here you see the editor on the left. And basically, we get this little timeline and sources of assets on the top. Over here, you see the photo carousel. And when you tap on that, it opens up, shows you the media on your phone. There are other carousels like Facebook, Twitter, and so on. And you can tap on those and get to the media that you've stored there. So if I want to make a pitch that has a couple of the photos I just took, this one photo from a friend of mine on Facebook, eventually, yeah, who was also there, I could drag that into my pitch. But of course, making those connections, getting to that media, re-uploading it back into our site, if we need to keep a copy of it, all that happens, through our back end. We also have a website. So not everyone has an iPhone. We're on iPhone right now as we find our product, and then we plan to move to Android and other devices. But right now, if you don't have an iPhone, you can still browse pitches. So go to pitch.com and log in. You can see here, I think by now, a fairly familiar layout of columnar grids. But you see a little bit of, and I'll show you the live site, I think, right after this. But you see that there's comments that are exposed, there's likes, there's views, there's a lot of things being tracked, there's time. And all of this has to load seamlessly and fast so that you can just scroll down and it just keeps going. You tap on a pitch, you'll see the highlight, some recommendations on the bottom. People who liked it up top with their profile pictures. Again, this is a detail page of a pitch. So here's a profile on one of our University of Louisville early adopters that are really into pitch. And you can see here that person's pitches at the bottom, and links to see what pitches they've made, who's following them, who they're following, who they are following, who is following them, and what pitches they like. So, real quick, let me just show you what it looks like on this one. Any questions so far about what this is? Or?
Are you going to the phone?
Yeah. It should get there. Yes, not. Okay. Well, let's just continue with the other side.
That's actually what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah. We're in stealth mode. No, actually, we're in the App Store. It's PTCH. You could download it and take a look and try it out yourself. But so I guess really quickly the question about if you have any questions about pitch or the actual product itself, ask them now or you can find them later. But I want to introduce Richard, and I'll join here.
Yeah.
But Richard can talk about some of the reasoning that we had for picking Mongo and what else we looked at.
Hi everyone, I'm Richard Buckingham. Been at Pitch for a year. Before that, I've had different work at HP Cloud Services, and I was at MySpace for 5 years running ops over there. So this is a little bit different than what I'm used to. So I joined last year, right in August. Really, there was only a couple of people on the pitch team at the time. Hans was one of them. We were just sort of deciding from a technology standpoint what we wanted to be, what we wanted to do. One of the things I think we decided very early on was we wanted to be, autonomous as a startup. We wanted to embrace open source. So one of the reasons for going Mongo was that we immediately decided to go open source and sort of throw away the idea of going Oracle, Microsoft SQL, or some massively licensed cost-based system. Another reason would be the complexity of those kinds of systems. We really wanted to embrace the sort of startup developer flexibility concept, and the sort of NoSQL movement was something we wanted to get into. One of the main reasons I was brought into Pitch was because of my experience of scale out with MySpace. I hope you've all heard MySpace. At the time I was there, it was the biggest site on the internet. Literally millions of requests a second coming in that we had to deal with. So, that's why they brought me up to Pitch. So, the concern really then, as a startup, is that we couldn't afford to hire a ton of skilled, DBA type skill.
it's either difficult to find or it's expensive or both. So we really want to go with a technology that a developer with sort of very little experience of large-scale data management scale out, could actually handle in the early stages. And then from an ops standpoint, which kind of where I come from, Mongo really stood out as the most mature of the NoSQL solutions. Again, this was like a year ago, and probably 2 years ago, it was a bit of a more difficult decision to make because NoSQL was really starting out. There were a few more players in there that opportunistically could have gone in different directions, and I think Tengen really took Mongo in the right direction. Yeah, has done a really good job. Question?
I'm sorry, if you want to hold the questions.
No, I can take questions.
So what other NoSQL solutions you guys look at? Cassandra, anything else?
Yeah, I mean, we considered Cassandra, I think 2 years ago. Cassandra had a lot of momentum. That kind of started dissipating a year ago, and at this point, everyone who had it that I know of have really started dropping it. I guess then, mem-based CouchDB came together. Really, the only people I know running that at any kind of scale is Zynga. Outside of those guys, I don't actually know anybody that's using it.
What about Hadoop?
Hadoop, yeah, at scale, great. I think, but the operational investment in Hadoop seemed a little heavy up front. There's quite a steep learning curve there. I already had a steep learning curve getting into, so we're on AWS, and that was all new to me, and I was getting into that. Plus, most of the other open source solutions were already new to me as well. So
now Richard feels like God because he can just kick off instances with keyboards.
So yeah, Hadoop certainly, if you're really talking about big data and MapReduce type functions, then yeah, like that's probably what you should go with. But it just seemed like
it's a nice middle ground, is what you're saying.
Yeah, Mongo. Yeah, it just seemed at the time, probably the best choice. And I think actually a year from now, it's proved to have been the right choice. And then finally, for me, I know lots of people in the industry, and I just talked to a lot of people, and everyone said, yeah, go Mongo.
It may be a naive question, but isn't Hadoop by itself, it's just a framework, you'd probably go edge-based, right?
Yeah, so you'd go
it's got a whole ecosystem around it.
So why we like Mongo now? Actually, I'm going to have Oleg take over for the next couple of slides, just because this is his list.
Why we like Mongo? So I'm Oleg, just Oleg. I worked at MySpace before and a couple of other companies, and so I led the content team at MySpace, and I did a lot of work on the content. So when I got invited to work on Pitch, I was really excited, and they asked me to investigate different databases, and immediately I thought that any kind of schema-less solutions, because we had a lot of content, and we had different blob requirements to store data. The Mongo database I looked briefly at CouchDB, but Mongo seemed to have probably the best interface and the most flexible. So for Pitch, the schema-less basically was the blessing from the beginning. I'm going to jump to the fact that we actually run a Python shop, and the Python PyMongo drivers, and the fact that the Mongo database is schema-less, it provided very transparent and very fast to iterate environment for us to actually create any kind of solution literally within hours that could come back with, make me a list of followers or build me a social graph. Everything basically literally takes minutes to hours to put together. And
you do API in the next hour.
Yeah, so we also run Pyramid as our web framework, not Django, but Pyramid is similar to Sinatra, if anyone actually familiar with that. So that also provided very, very thin interface, very easy to use. So we'll be able to iterate really quickly in, I think in a matter of a couple of weeks, we got together the full website with everything, social networking, backend, front end, everything together. We use the Mongo as a document database for majority of our storage, and our pitches, which consists of a bunch of assets, and they combine everything together. And they also contain the metadata, the name, description, a bunch of other fields. They list the assets. They also list the positions, and they list how everything renders. We were able to actually store all in a single document. So most of the time, you would be able to pull this document together and in a single hit and display it on the front end. Yes?
Your front end's an iPhone, so what are you using for the front end development? Using standard Apple tools, PhoneGap? Xcode,
yeah, direct.
Xcode
We're
for
doing
the
native
win.
development.
What's that?
Xcode for the win. Yeah, when Xcode runs, it's really cool.
So you, okay, Xcode, okay.
Yes.
Are you actually storing the asset in Mongo, or are you storing a reference to it? Are you
We're storing the references.
Okay.
Are you using GridFS or uploading S3?
S3. Also, the assets, they contain the metadata. If you saw the music on the right side, when each page has a linked music. So we store our music catalog with all of the blobs of metadata right within the assets collection. And then all of the rights management, territory restrictions, everything else is stored all in the same collection. So we're able to pull it out and then immediately localize it, figure out whether or not you can play or reuse certain music somewhere without actually going and traversing. At MySpace, we had more than 10 tables in certain cases. So we had to come up with a completely different solution. We were not able to use relational database with MySpace. We had to come up with a unique key value pair store. In this case, we use Mongo. So contact list and everything else, we literally store almost everything in blobs with the very few exceptions. So efficient atomic queries, that was also a blessing. So we're able to store a lot of things like list of last users who used pitch, or list of last 5 of your friends who liked something on your social stream. We're able to store it as arrays and use those atomic operations to just push this to a set or set of data with a single query without actually querying the database, coming back, and then having consistency issues. Counters were very easy to do. Once we decided that we want to use a Python and we played with PyMongo driver, we didn't need our own ORMs or anything like Django has its own ORMs. We also found there's a bunch of ORM drivers for the Python, but the simplicity of PyMongo driver basically made it very simple to just use straight Python to the PyMongo to the Mongo database. So most of this, if you're familiar with Python, everything is a dictionary. So for PyMongo allows you to basically use the interface as a dictionary, and then the pyramid also uses everything as a dictionary. So we had literally almost no translation code whatsoever. So that was very fast to iterate. We also, for majority of things that we do, every single update probably produces consecutive other tasks that have to be done. So if you follow someone, we immediately record that you followed, but afterwards we run a bunch of tasks where your activity stream gets updated, you get APNS notifications. In certain cases, if you get emails and everything else, all of those things are obviously happening asynchronously. So we use celery queue, that's for Python's equivalent of Redis rescue or something else. The celery allows you to use any kind of a backend. For now, to simplify our operations and to simplify a number of technologies we use MongoDB, and it works pretty well with that. It has its own limitations. I'm going to go through that too. Any questions on pluses?
Quickly, Celery is just a task queue.
Celery is a task queue system that uses any kind of a backend. It originally was designed to be used with RabbitMQ, and they actively promoting that. It uses Redis, Cassandra, Mongo database, anything, MySQL, anything you want. Anyone using Python, highly recommended. Celery is very nice.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How do you design your database in terms of like trying to relate data to each other? In a relational database, you would
Right.
have
So we store references. So for example, if you have a pitch and the pitch contains the author, we store author ID. And then at the point where we need to render, for example, list of pitches, we pull a list of pitches, and then we analyze the data. We say, okay, we need 10 authors. We go to the Mongo and say, give me 10 authors. Actually, it's a little more complicated. It goes to cache, says, hey, do you have anything in memory? No. Go to the caching infrastructure. I don't have it there yet, where I have 5. Okay, another 5 needs to come from Mongo. We go and say, give me 5 authors with those IDs. Same thing for assets, same thing for others. So everything is stored as references. There's no need for relational database.
So basically, like goods for a lot of your assets.
Goods, integers, whatever we want to use. A lot of times we use native Mongo IDs, and that seems to be working fine for us.
But you're not using the, sorry, you're not creating the ref in the application logic. You're just putting the Mongo's ref inside the document that points to something else.
I'm storing IDs, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, every place you have a join, you have one of the query.
Yes. So it's true. I basically need to call query Mongo potentially in certain cases for complex sets of data, maybe 4 times.
What caching systems you use?
So use Beaker Cache for Pyramid. It has underlying interfaces to the Memcache, and but so far we found that the speed of Mongo, in order for us to actually communicate the Memcache and come back, it's actually slower because it's chatty. It has a chatty interface. Unfortunately, with our Python driver, it actually was pretty fast to query Mongo itself directly. Yeah, Memcache and plus the Pyramid also has its own internal in-memory cache.
Since you guys are very write-heavy, is there any problem with locking mechanism of Mongo?
So no, we basically offline everything to the celery queue. So almost every operation is a single or double write. So a single write to record the fact that, for example, you followed someone, you like something, and then the second write will be to write to the queuing system that, hey, just fan out those tasks. So we have a pub sub architecture where you just throw some message on the bus like, hey, someone create the pitch, or someone is following someone. And then we have a bunch of workers that pick up, write to, for example, event log, write to a stream fans out, write to emailer, write to APNS notifier, and so on. So all of those things are getting queued, and if in case we have a bottleneck, they just retry itself. Everything is engineered to do the upsert, so there's no disruptive changes. With the exception of the counters, where we could potentially double count some things, and we're not worried about that. Celery basically picks up where it's left off, and we have a dead letter queue in case if it fails n number of times. Most of the time, it's just developer error.
And you are using RabbitMQ for that?
No, we use Mongo database for Celery queues at backend.
Oh, I mean for the pub sub.
No, so Celery is basically a thin layer on top of any backend transport that we want to use. So, and then Celery says, hey, I want to store it in some data store, a task, and then someone picks up the task and executes. So in this case, Mongo database is one of the suitable transports for that. So it writes to the Mongo, to a collection called Celery tasks, and then someone else, there's a Celery workers sitting on the different servers, pick up from that, do atomic increment that, hey, I took the task, executes it, and writes it, and it's done.
You guys use a different set of Mongo databases for Celery,
Yes.
separate from the
Yes.
physical boxes are separate?
Yes, they're all separated. So we have some of the Celery tasks that execute the rendering jobs that are very, very heavy. They're sitting on the GPU boxes. Can I talk about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't. By the way, we don't actually have. Well, we have a file server, a Mac Mini, but otherwise, none of our infrastructure runs on stuff we own.
No, I know, but I mean AWS, like would you
Yeah,
fire up on a
it's-
different instance, or we just use the same?
Yeah, so obviously in development, and we have a bunch of environments. Thank you to the ops. We have multiple development environments, multiple staging environments, separate test environment. Because of that, we were able to test everything. We have over 1,000 tests for APIs. So everything runs automatically. And so in different environments, we have everything either together, but in production, it's separate. So the queuing system sits separately. The event, all of the events that people do that gets thrown to the bus about something happened in the system gets recorded in a different reporting database for later analysis. And the OLTP database, which is all of the metadata and everything, that gets stored in a third database.
And
Yes.
sorry, are you using raw TCP connections between them, or
What do you mean?
what are you using to as the communication layer?
We just directly communicate with the phone. I think it's using TCP.
Okay.
It is info. Yeah, that's all. I've got some slides on the operational side of it as well.
Cool. All right. So we also looked at a couple of other requirements that we potentially wanted to do. So obviously, Mongo can't really do friend-over-friend queries. For in some cases, we thought about, hey, we need to do some deep traversal. So we looked at the Neo4j briefly, and for a majority of times, we just ended up deciding that if we ever need it, we'll probably supplement the Mongo database with the graph database. But technically, graph database is good for certain things, and it could work as a key value pair as well. So we try to be smart and just say, hey, let's just run everything in Mongo. So that worked up to a certain point until we started running complicated queries to run the search. So instead, I guess I got lazy and I said, okay, let's just not configure Solr or Lucene or anything like that, and let's just run everything in Mongo. And literally 20 minutes later, hey, look, it came to search in regex, and I can do, I can ignore the case. So search is done, ship it. So obviously that worked up to a certain point. It's a startup. So we could basically quickly iterate and come up, hey, does the search looks good, and then quickly iterate and basically make it better and see how we need to refine the search versus just spending years and trying to make the best search ever and then figure out people don't need to use it in that way. So we tried to run regex, and we looked at the fact that we could run regex with certain queries will be faster, certain queries will be slower, but as soon as we started running any kind of a complex OR queries with the regex, even on indexed fields, that didn't work. So we just end up with spinning Solr, wrote a bunch of reindexing jobs, and then after a couple of days, I think, and well, a couple of weeks deploying to production, finally everything worked well. And so we're pretty happy with the Solr. Everything works very well. And so we no longer do this regex queries, which kill CPU. Yes?
Sorry, I mean, we have Solr too. So do you guys dump out of Mongo and then have index jobs run on Solr?
So we have index jobs which run very infrequently to either add the fields or anything, but it does. So this Celery queue that runs one of the tasks for it is to actually write to the Solr. Yeah.
To Solr.
It does upsert into the Solr, so the results get.
Do they create XML documents for that Solr?
JSON.
JSON.
Yes. So we also have charts, which basically create the best and the most popular features ever. And there gotta be some chart like that, right? So we use the JavaScript engine to actually run those queries, and it does the MapReduce job, and literally learned this very, very simple MapReduce in a couple of hours. So it ran pretty well until we started accumulating the data, and we found that we can't really run this every 5 minutes because the MapReduce and everything else and create temporary tables. And there's some additional requirements. We had to reshuffle the stuff. So we found that it's mostly CPU bound, and that if you do a lot of JavaScript within your MapReduce job or any kind of a server-side script, it's proven to us that it could potentially slow the server down with the JavaScript queries while everything else is running file ops. And so we basically run charts not as every 5 minutes, but every 30 minutes. And so for blocking writes, that was obviously the primary concern, as everyone's saying, oh my god, it blocks the writes, it could block the whole database, what am I going to do about that? So we designed from the beginning to have everything queued, everything asynchronous. Literally, as I talked about that, almost everything is put on what we call bus or message bus or enterprise bus, and so the bus takes it, whatever it wants, all the stuff. Right, it's a shuttle. So we don't have any problems so far. I don't think we're up to the scale where we would see significant problems and we would optimize it. And we have a plan to either shard it or separate it, or take, for example, specific databases that are not necessarily have to be in the same database as the pitch primary metadata, and take it to another database and shard it separately. Basically throw some hardware.
You do still use Mongo for the charts?
Yes.
Do you recommend that?
Hmm?
Do you recommend that?
I recommend trying, don't either pre-massage your data before you're inserting into the Mongos. Don't run JavaScript on the server. I hope that newer versions, whenever the the new JavaScript engine ships with the Mongo, I think it will be significantly faster. I think right now it uses ScriptMonkey engine or SpiderMonkey. So, so it's just don't run a lot of JavaScript. It's not Node.js. It's not designed for that. Any more questions? Thank you.
Yeah.
Yours?
Thanks, Oleg. So glad I exceeded you that. We actually use Mongo for reporting too. Oleg mentioned that. So we have Mongo for a sort of primary OLTP type primary data store. And then we also spit out through Celery. Celery then writes to a reporting Mongo replica set. Basically, it's just a long event log of everything that happens on the site that we believe we will want to report on at some point. So we were using MapReduce previously, but now with this aggregation framework in 2.2, which we have 2.2 on our reporting replica set, we're still running 2.0 on everything else. But it's just for me, just to simply get into the event log and just figure out by user ID, by client type, by country, etc. Sums, totals, averages, group by, sorts, everything. Really, really quick, really, really easy to go through. Millions of rows or millions of documents as well.
Question.
Yeah.
All right. So you said for your some of the offline queries you have a replica, and you're using Celery to populate that replica?
No, so it's actually it's sort of offline. It's not part of like the transactional system because it's populated by Celery, but it's the production reporting system. So it's being written to while I'm still querying it, but that's not a problem. So what we also do is we do have a hidden secondary. So I mentioned we're on AWS, so we're 100% AWS. We actually, even though we're part of DreamWorks, we're affiliated with DreamWorks. We're fully autonomous from an infrastructure standpoint. So we're our own ops team. We just run everything on AWS. DreamWorks have servers and storage and data centers and all kinds of stuff. We don't use any of it. We're just on their campus and we use their network for external internet access. That's it. So on AWS we're running. I think actually it's on the next few slides, but our primary data store is a 4-node replica set. The way that's set up is primary 2 secondaries in US West 2, hidden secondary US East 1. So the hidden secondary, what that means is that the secondary goes to the primary and actually can go to the other secondaries to pull in data, to keep a copy. And even though it's going from West to US East, the lag on that is always like sub-second. It's like not a problem. But what we can then do is do queries against the hidden secondary directly. So it's like a live copy of the production data, but of course it's a sort of read-only copy. So I can query against that all day long, and I'm not really affecting.
And that's all done through
production.
Mongo itself. You're not using any.
Oh, the replication?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is just a standard. It's a hidden secondary. It's just part of Mongo.
I don't know why I thought maybe I got it mixed up with the reporting. That is.
Yeah. So the primary data store is this primary 2 secondaries and then hidden secondary on the East Coast.
Sorry.
Hi, Siri.
Don't lean on it, Siri.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the primary and secondaries, are they running against EBS, or do you have them on a family?
I'll get to that actually in the next slide. So yeah, then the reporting data is a separate set of instances, separate replica set, and then I don't actually replicate that to US East because I don't really care about losing the data. Because the other advantage of my hidden secondary is I can EBS snapshot by doing an fsync lock, and because it's a secondary and because it's a hidden secondary, the application service never actually try and read from it. So I can do an fsync lock and basically lock the database, run a snapshot, get a clean snapshot, and then unlock it.
I thought that was only necessary unless you were, if you were not on LVN or MVN.
Yeah, so actually, I'll get to the next slide. You guys are getting ahead of me. Awesome. All right, where were we? I'll jump forward too. So we are on EC2, we're large instances right now, so not extra large, we're just large standard instances. We're using the EBS optimized instances now, so you can stop and start your instances and bring it back up as EBS optimized instances, just as long as you can take the downtime for stopping it. We're using provisioned IOPS volume. We're actually just running a single volume right now. So I have like, I don't know what it is, like 10 terabyte volume and 5 terabyte volume, I don't even know right now. Previously we ran 8 EBS volumes in RAID 10 via MDADM. So the problem here, your question about snapshots, with MDADM, I'm just doing a raw kind of RAID 10 across these volumes. I can't do a consistent snapshot. I can't guarantee a consistent snapshot across that without doing a full fsync clock.
So you guys aren't using LVM on top
We are not using LVM, or we're not using LVM and NDM. So right now I'm not even using MDADM anymore because I'm just relying on a single volume. So with the new provisioned IOPS, you can go to 1,000 IOPS per volume. So once I get close to that, I'll probably then strike that across a couple of 1,000 IOP volumes, right? And then I have to go back to MDADM. But right now, I'm below 1,000, well below 1,000 IOP requirement on my primary. So I'm good. And actually, I mean, what I could do instead of increasing the volume there on IOPS, I could also just shard and just keep the simplicity of having to just maintain more volume and not worry about RAID issues or anything like that. So what I do is the provision IOP volume is actually used simply for the pitch DB. So I basically symlink that into my data volume, and then I use the local volume for the admin local journal and the locking file. It seems to work just fine. We're running in VPCs again, US West to US East 1. We're replicating between the VPCs between the regions using OpenVPN. And if you want a replication solution, OpenVPN is like super brainless. It's just got the hook that running in it. And this is for media like YouTube. On the dev stage, so we're also running, and this is nice about Mongo too. Mongo is so lightweight that you can run it on a PC or a laptop underneath your code, so you don't have to rely on an external Mongo server. So we run it on, all the engineers run it on their local PCs. We also have 4 dev servers, so there's always a dev server somewhere where they can roll to, and that'll give them a little bit more confidence over what they're doing. All of the dev servers actually share a replica set for dev as well for the dev data. They run local Mongo for Celery, so that Celery can actually be different. We also run local Mongo on the build test server, so we're just running Jenkins. Because with Python, we don't really technically do builds, but we do tests. And Oleg and team have written over 1,000 unit tests, so we do pretty good testing. Staging, we do the 2-node replica set in staging, just because it's key for me there in the staging environment to get some operational staging as well, not just application staging. Like code might work in dev, you can't just ship it to production, so you've got to be sure that things like, because you've got authentication with replica sets, you've got you're referencing Mongo by replica set type and not by like just server host name or anything like that, right? Because you've got obviously primary, secondary, and failover issues and things like that. Just to save instances, I run actually 2 replica sets on the staging environment because my reporting DB, rather than spin up more instances, just runs the second instance of the MongoD process, just listens on a different port. Does that make sense? Trying to be cheap. Any questions about running Mongo on EC2 or anything other than that? I know for me a year ago, how to run EBS the best was a real concern for me. Going RAID 10, should I use 4 volume, should I use 8? How do I do snapshots, all that kind of stuff? Now with provisioned IOPS, you can get guaranteed 1,000 IOPS per volume. For me at least, it's way less of an operation.
I have a question. The MongoDB you run on the EC2 is a subscription based or is license based? Who you pay for?
I mean, it's all open source, free.
It's free, right?
You can do it as much as you want. So we do have a contract with 10gen.
For support.
Now, so I'm not too worried about it.
And for other reasons, health checks and consulting.
Oh yeah.
Oh, right. Okay.
But on the monitoring side, so we do use AWS CloudWatch, very lightweight, just really for the alerting aspect on CPU spikes and disk queuing. It's pretty good, pretty basic. We use Nagios with the Mongo plugin, so there's a special Mongo plugin for Nagios. It monitors all of the connections for time to space, bit ratio, lock, synergy, memory, blah, blah, blah. And then obviously alerts on that. We use a thing called Visage, which is kind of like high charts, kind of JavaScript charting, a lot nicer than the old sort of MRTGs and stuff. That just gives us really our history, so I can go back, and look at the last week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and see if there's any kind of weird spikes or anything. And of course, ... if you run Mongo and you don't run MMS, which is provided for free by Tengen, it's hosted, you're crazy because it's pretty awesome, spectacularly awesome. In fact. So who runs Mongo and who runs MMS?
I've never heard of it.
Oh my god.
It's free. And
yeah.
It's
I should have asked for $50 for that tip. This is fully hosted by Tengen. All you do is you install their agent on your instance on your server, and it just goes out and every minute or two just sends a whole log of what's going on your servers. You can monitor your entire replication set. So I'm only showing you the status window here. So these are like I think this is probably high charts, but all of this stuff you can just dig into. You can look over the last by minute, by 5 minutes, day, week, month, whatever. It's all there. There's a lot more below that as well. It also does hardware monitoring, so as long as you install Munin, you get all of your I/O stats, times, bytes, and queues, all that kind of stuff. And I use MMS on dev, stage, and prod. All run as sort of slightly independent profiles on MMS, and then you can allow your developers to have read-only access and log in and see what's going on too. So it's pretty awesome. I don't know if we know if I have any more slides.
No, that's it.
That's it.
Right.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we hand it over to Antoine?
Yeah, I actually have a question. You mentioned you're doing a lot in terms of reporting. Are you using any kind of interface on top of your reporting, or is it just raw querying?
No, we built a very, very simple dashboard. It's kind of like it's on what is like a 4x4 kind of web page that just says top left sign-ups, logins, and then comments, likes, just very quick stats, and all of that is driven off of the hidden secondary, and it's all in real time. The browser just refreshes every 30 seconds or whatever, and just all of the queries just happen on the fly. That's it right now. We do a lot of ad hoc queries, so we have like a weekly meeting. We'll do a status meeting, and Hans will get into the database and run some queries, and I'll run some queries, and we'll figure out any sort of internal stats that we can't already get from something like Google Analytics or whatever. So
We used to live on SQL Plus and Query Analyzer, but the shell is so powerful. Just with JavaScript, it's really easy to just write your query right there and just do it. And then once in a while, I'll use MongoDB, but honestly, I kind of stop. Just do it by hand. It's faster.
yeah, at this point, I just have a series of sort of templated queries or whatever, and you just go in, and I know I can swap out client type for country code or whatever, and just get a report on.
You can save out a JavaScript. I've written a couple Python files that scripts that just go and do all the queries I want and spit the report out. It's so easy. You might as well just do it by hand and not have to worry about any kind of reporting tool or anything like that. And then sometimes if we have other metrics, third-party metrics tools, sometimes they do funky stuff with data on their reporting side, so I get a raw output of their data and use Mongo to check out what's really going on.
Yeah, because we log everything. Everything that happens in the database gets logged to the reporting DB as well, so it's a really good sort of backup verifier for what we get from Kissmetrics or Google Analytics or whatever. So it's good to verify from our side. That it works.
Any hard rules on how you guys set your indexes?
So
Yes, that's good.
The rule is if you query it, we immediately write. So with the Python, we don't have any good framework similar to the Rake or anything like that. So what we have is developers will write immediately the creation of the indexes right in the code. So the first time you write to a database, you basically create indexes. So the code is right there, the code that actually populates the database to the indexing code. And then in production, that code gets turned off, and then we reindex once, and then we switch to reindexing off. We basically index everything that we query and we pre-order it in a way that we want to query. So most of the time we try to write as less indexes as possible for the performance of the writes. So for reporting database, I think there's no indexes, or there's one index that maybe get put later. For majority of others, we have one or two. For stream, they're probably the most complicated indexes. Some of the indexes were not very efficient. We found that I think not equals is providing very bad performance, at least in 2.0. So we had to actually rewrite our schema to do slightly better. And then the indexes were simplified as a result of pre-massaging the data. So you could actually pre-compute data and put an index in the way you want. So instead of having a complex index of a bunch of fields, you can just have 1 or 2 fields and don't need to run as many.
So you only have about maybe 3 indexes or less?
Per collection?
Yeah.
We have, I'll say less than 20 collections. So most of collections, they have 3 indexes or less.
We have a lot of little functional collections.
Yeah, there's a bunch of other secondaries. So we do velocity tracking and everything else. So those are very limited, indexed very little. So you have a number of how many times specific IP address. I can talk about that.
Yeah.
I'm joking. So how many times like specific user, specific IP address, or how much are they abusing their privileges, how much stuff they're posting to a stream, how much stuff they're spamming to other users, so on. So all of those, we're using increment queries and everything else to and assign daily, hourly, minutely buckets to figure out, hey, someone is posting, like, commenting on someone else's pitches extensively with some specific phrase, and they exceeded like 20 comments in 5 minutes, so it's a bot, kill it. So something like that. So for that, in that case, we use a very limited number of indexes, so because of the write performances of the issue. Everything else, since we have a celery queue, and we can probably take a hit on actually writing to a table as long as the read performance is really fast.
So did you notice, do you do a lot of stray queries without that are separate from your?
No.
Okay.
Everything's run through the APIs. So we don't allow any other access to the database except for those guys who are doing it on a nightly basis. Don't tell us anything. Everything runs through APIs. So the web frontend runs through APIs. Everything else runs through exactly through the same set of code like everyone else would. The iOS runs through the same set of APIs. Our front end, web services, everything else. The JavaScript on the website runs through the same set of APIs.
Thanks a lot, guy.
I just want to say something. Mongo is awesome, and I just want to make sure you guys realize it's not like some magic bullet. Well, it kind of is, but these guys are some of the best in the industry. So I was very lucky to be able to find them and have them, go, oh yeah, Mongo looks like it would work, and then make it work. So I think you probably heard through their discussion that it is, to do it on a large scale in a very professional way, it's a lot of expertise. But at the same time,
it's a magic bullet that you could also shoot yourself with.
Yeah, you can, absolutely. You can index everything, and you're like, what the hell am I doing? On the other hand, I've yet to actually take out a data. You can hit it with all kinds of crazy shit, and then it just does it. So.
Yeah, it's kind of wacky. You can just get thousands of requests a second into that thing on like a laptop, and you're like, okay, this is cool.
That's cool. All right, thanks.
Thank you very much, guys. Now